was thinking like just yesterday, like we played a show, a televised show, and we were going to play, we were booked to play the show so that we could promote our single Heavy and play that song. And then we heard the news about Chris Cornell and had a little powwow in the dressing room before we went on. And we said, you know, the thing that's good for the band to do is to play Heavy. But the right thing to do is play One More Light, because it's about the loss of a friend. And it's one of the most important songs on the record. And it may never be a single, but it's just an important song, and it's the right song to play. So that's what we ended up doing. Well, when we were doing a sound check, Chester couldn't even make it through the song. He was getting halfway through and getting choked up. And even when we did play the whole song, and it was live on TV, or taped for film for TV, he kind of just stopped, like towards the end, like he missed the last couple lines of it, just couldn't finish the song. Fans were crying in the audience, and I think it was cathartic. I think it was good, because the message of the song, I think the reason is, the message of the song is, when you're dealing with something so deep as you know, losing a friend, or in this case, even just somebody you admire, somebody you look up to, when we're talking about some of these fans in the audience. One of the things that I think you can do is to reach out to people and offer them like community, like let them know, like we're a family, we're a community, like we care about each other. Even, you know, whether it's a friend who's lost somebody, or a family member, whatever, like to reach out and let them know even that you're thinking about them is sometimes that's enough.
For years, Chester Bennington had been candid about his personal issues. Numerous interviews are out there in which he tackles his tumultuous history with depression and addictions. Chester was an open book when it came to the darkness he wrestled with, especially when revealing that he was molested for many years, starting around age 7.
Well, we'll get her on the next record then.
You have to. All right, this track, Heavy. I mean, what do people need to know? It is so mesmerizing, and maybe that's a word. I don't know. I'm trying to think of words to describe, because it has blown me away.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I don't know if anybody out there can relate, but like, I have a hard time with life sometimes. Right. Sometimes it's great, but a lot of times for me, it's really hard. And no matter how I'm feeling, like, I always find myself like struggling with certain patterns of behavior. I find myself like stuck in the same thing that keeps repeating over and over again. And I'm just like, how am I in this? And it's that moment where you're in it, and then you kind of separate yourself from that situation, and you look at it and you see it for what it is, and you're able to then do something about it. Like you've now broken out of that circle, that cycle. And
are you kind of, because the first couple of lines on the track make me think that you were like overthinking things in your life? Is it like
it could be. I mean, honestly, like there's so many circumstances that for me that relate to this situation, but like, I know that for me, when I'm inside myself, when I'm in my own head, it gets this place right here, this skull between my ears. That is a bad neighborhood, and I should not be in there alone. I can't be in there by myself.
What are you talking about? It's just
it's insane.
Crazy, man.
It's crazy in here. This is a bad place for me to be by myself. And so when I'm in that, like my whole life gets thrown off. Like if I'm in there, like I don't say nice things to myself. Like there's another Chester in there that's like wants to take me down. And so and I find that it could be whether it's substances or whether it's behavior or whether it's like depressive stuff or whatever it is. Like if I'm not like actively like getting out of myself and being with other people, like being a dad, being a husband, being a bandmate, like being a friend, helping someone out. Like if I'm out of myself, I'm great. If I'm inside all the time, I'm horrible. I'm a mess. And so for me, it's like that was kind of where I don't like my mind right now, stacking up problems that are so unnecessary. You know, that's where that was where that came from for me. And but it's the moment where it's like realizing like I drive myself nuts, like actually thinking that like all these are real problems. Like all the stuff that's going on in here is actually just, I'm doing this to myself. And regardless of whatever that thing is. And so this is that like conscious awareness of that thing. And like when you can step back and look at something, like you're actually elevating yourself consciously. Like you're enlightened at that point,
Right.
to a certain degree. And so this is that moment of enlightenment where you go, you know, I could do something about this, and by doing it, I can move forward and get unstuck from this, and then I could actually be able to. For me, it's like I can live with life on life's terms. Like I can experience the whole spectrum of humanity and not want to get out of it, whether it's happiness, sadness, or whatever. Like I just want to, when I'm in it, I just want to get out of however I'm feeling, no matter what it is.
So when you wrote this song, you were clearly in that bad neighborhood in your brain. Or
This time last year, I was a mess. Like a total wreck, you know? And like, I think for a lot of people, they think like if you're successful, like all of a sudden, like you get like you get like some card in the mail that says like, you're going to be totally satisfied and happy for the rest of your life. It doesn't happen like that. Like life for me happens the way it always, the only difference is I'm in Lincoln Park. Like what goes on inside my head it's always been this way for me. So when I'm not working on that, like my life gets messy. And that's kind of how the inspiration for all these songs came from, conversations about life and what was going on as friends, as husbands, as fathers, as, you know, whatever, business partners. Like we were all talking about what was going on in all aspects of our lives at certain times throughout the process of this record. And we realized like, man, we've all gone through like some really crazy stuff, and we don't need to find the source of inspiration. Like, what's this record about? Like, this is our life. You know, we always have written about our lives, and like, that should just be enough. We don't need to find some new thing. Like life is always throwing these like curveballs at you, whether they're good or bad. Like it just happens. And eventually what I found is, especially with the bad stuff, because that's the stuff that I kind of that's the stuff that sticks to me a little bit more, coming out at the other side and being like, man, I'm a better person because of that. Or I'm more compassionate because of that. Or, you know, I feel like I understand people or humanity a little bit differently because I've been through some pretty crazy stuff. And that's a positive. So finding the positive in all these things, that's what we always try to do, but we still talk about the feelings we had going through all these different circumstances.
The mainstream media used this interview ad nauseum to push the suicide narrative and claim that this was a call for help, contradicting Talinda Bennington's statements, where she claims this was sudden and there were no warning signs. Nevertheless, he was referring to the lyrics of the song Heavy and what they represented. By now, we know that Chester and Talinda were in the middle of a divorce and that he felt unsafe with her. The timing is certainly suspicious, as the purchase of the new home was final just 9 days after his best friend, Chris Cornell, was murdered in Detroit. What we know is that the facts surrounding both tragedies are full of inconsistencies. The parallels are plenty. Chris and Chester were high-profile rock stars, and their careers were not slowing down. They were close friends for 10 years, toured together, collaborated on charities, and even were family, as Chester was the godfather of Chris Cornell Junior. Both their wives had a shadowy past related to the so-called oldest trade in the world, prostitution. Albeit no street hookers, these ladies were procured for men with higher acquisitive power, otherwise known as escorts. Later, they were placed as handlers by the industry they were already familiar with. Chris and Chester seem to have inside knowledge of the Haiti child sex trafficking debacle and how the Jeffrey Epstein ring connected to Hollywood and the music industry. They had names and receipts, and wait until I tell you about their bodyguards and cause of death. The official version with both men is suicide in a sudden fit of depression, with their past addictions juggled in to serve as an excuse. But of course, We're talking about rock musicians. Tortured souls by default, addicted, conflicted, and lavished in excess. Most of the people in the industry who died tragically by overdose or suicide were likely murdered. Brian Jones, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, and Janis Joplin. And yes, even Kurt Cobain, Lane Staley, Andy Wood, and Scott Weiland. Can we all agree that most people suffer some kind of depression and never commit suicide or even attempt it? Most people never achieve in their lifetime the level of artistic and financial success all these people got by the time they were 30. Until we realize that the media has programmed us to accept tragedy as an intrinsic part of stardom, we will be unable to catch these crimes in real time. Never mind, the media tried to stick the autoerotic asphyxiation crap to Chris Cornell, just like they did to Michael Hutchins, but it was so ridiculous they recanted after a few days. Some even bring up the copycat suicide version and how Chester sacrificed himself in honor of his fallen best friend on his would-be birthday. If anything, the Linkin Park frontman aimed to expose the killers and protect Chris's children. There is no such thing as sudden fits of depression unless someone is diagnosed with bipolar, and even then, the term is inaccurate. Both musicians were familiar with mental health treatment and had never been diagnosed as such. Depression is not epilepsy. It doesn't come in fits all of a sudden. A bout of depression is something that has to be triggered by unfavorable consecutive life events and develop long enough to bring a person so far down as to give someone suicidal thoughts